Hey, good morning, everybody. It's your favorite host, Tim and Tim. We're back with another episode of the Making Moves in Multifamily Live. Facebook stream, LinkedIn stream. I mean, we're streaming all over the place, YouTube, and we're just having a great time. We love doing this show every week. And Tim, how you doing today, man?
Can't complain, and kind of jazzed about what we're going to talk about today. So I can't complain at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so man, this show topic I wanted to make was because it's something that we thought we had. Or maybe it was sorry, maybe it's not something that it was really kind of a misunderstanding of really what we had and the impacts of what everybody loves to talk about, why buying multifamily properties in a single area is so amazing, right? Economies of scale. It's thrown around all the time. Tim, how many times do you hear people talk about economies of scale?
Uh, four times a day, at least. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, for a couple times, right? Everyone loves to throw out this term, economies of scale, and I think it's a misused and abused term. And for better or for worse, I'll be transparent here. And maybe it was my lack of understanding, or maybe I was naive towards the fact of what it truly was. But I wanted to kind of talk about that, and I wanted to share some of my own experiences, and Tim will probably put in some of his here too. But I really wanted to kind of talk about why we thought we had these economies of scale. One of the things that I thought about was, oh, you have economies of scale when you buy a lot of property in the area. Like, oh, I'm a big dog. I own a lot of real estate now. I got economies of scale, right? But what did that really mean? Like, really kind of hard to put a finger on exactly what that economies of scale meant. And the reason that I'm talking about it is because we thought we had it, but we didn't really realize how to utilize it and leverage it until we opened up our management company. Until Tim and I went vertically integrated with Vive Equity and I got our Vive property management shirt on, I didn't truly understand the power of economies of scale. And I'm going to talk about that for this show. We're talking about this show. We thought that if we continued to buy property in a single area and we were outsourcing everything to third parties, that we would be able to grow and scale and realize those economies of scale ourselves. In actuality, we were buying a lot of property and we were moving a lot of weight, but we weren't getting any of the benefit of the economies of scale because we were using a third-party management company. Now, don't get me wrong, third-party management companies have their place, and if you are the type of person that does not want to handle employees, that you don't want to deal with these headaches, that you don't really care about who gets the economies of scale as long as your numbers work, third-party management works great. If you have like an isolated 30 unit, 20 unit, 40 unit, whatever size property you have, if you have an isolated property and you don't really have the economies of scale to be able to open up your own management company in that area, third party is great. I mean, Tim and I still use third-party managers on some of our various assets, right? But now that we have opened our management company, we are looking at everything through a completely different lens. We look at it and say, hey, how much do we own in the area? What size is this property? How are we going to continue to grow and scale in this area in order to make these deals work or make them work even better than they do now? And some of the aha moments that I had was when we opened up like a Lowe's Pro account and all of these like construction supply accounts. You're able to go into Lowe's and negotiate the pricing. Like Tim Vest was the one that handled all of this stuff. But you go into the Lowe's Pro desk and you say, hey, we just opened a management company. We are owner operators, right? So we own and manage our own stuff. And over the next 8 months, we're going to need to buy 2,000 toilets because we're doing renovations. They're going to be able to say, okay, well, normally if you just picked one off the shelf, it'd be about $125 a toilet. But when you're buying them in scale and you have agreed upon pricing to buy all of your materials from Lowe's, you're able to get them for like what, $80 each or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So under 100, and then you can throw fans in there as well, right?
Fans. Yeah, fans was a big one.
Fans are my favorite.
Fans are your favorite pressure point. Yeah, we used to pay $150 a fan, but now with having our Lowe's Pro stuff, we're able to get them for what, $45 or something like that.
About $48 a piece.
48.
The same fan, guys.
Right. So if you're buying a 100 unit property that has 2 bedrooms, there's going to be 3 fans. You're going to have one in this, typically one in the living room and one in each bedroom, right? So if you're buying 3 fans at $48 times three, and you're going to do 100, you're going to buy a lot of fans, right? If you do the math on that, you'll quickly realize the savings. You're going to look at spending $14,000 to $15,000 on fans versus times three times 100 versus like $45,000 on fans, right?
Yeah.
It's 30,000. What is that? $30,000,
Yeah, it
$20,000.
is because we had a
Wow.
property we had a property, guys, where we were doing this, and it wasn't until late in the process that we were like, man, we need to go be negotiating this bulk discount. And just on that one property alone, I think I had calculated, had we done it early, it would have been a $28,000 savings just on that one item,
Mm-hmm.
just on those fans. Forget toilets and all that other stuff. 28 grand right there,
Just on
uh,
fans.
just on fans.
On $1 million rehab budget, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
28,000. It's
right.
2.8% of your total rehab budget, right? Oh, Christina has a good question. Is that Lowe's Pro the same as Home Depot Pro? Also, can you get a discount if you are a member of the REIA, Real Estate Investors Association? Yes, same thing. I don't think we have a Home Depot account because most of the stuff that we own is closer to Lowe's, thankfully. But yeah, we just use Lowe's. You could use Home Depot as well.
Yeah. And
Also, I don't know about the discount about the RIA.
yeah, I'm not sure about the RIA, Christina, but certainly ask. Just go in the store and ask. Just go walk up to their pro services desk and start a conversation. It's literally that easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you don't even have to let them know you're coming. So the Lowe's piece was one of it, right? I mean, but what are we? But what are we looking at with scale here, right? Like scale within a market. What are some of the other places that we've seen savings?
Payroll. We
That's
save a lot of money in payroll.
that's what I was hoping you'd say, guys. We didn't plan this, but I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, look, yeah, we do this stuff on the fly. You guys know. I mean, look, he pop quiz me right there. Bingo, got it right.
Yeah, I love that one because man, we sat down. Tim and I are looking at something right now, like a little inside baseball, right? We're looking at something right now in a market where we have something. Can't tell you yet, guys. But we sat down and we started looking at it, and we are like, hey, this one person can manage our current asset plus these others from a single location. We could actually add staff for the entire portfolio, and we'll come out, our average per unit for our payroll will drop, right? So add staff, get better coverage, and our average per unit goes down.
Yeah,
That's scale. That's
that's
scale,
real
right?
scale. And look, at the end of the day, like I'll say it again, where third party managers and utilizing like a GC contracting company, it's fantastic. It has its place. Everything has its place. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there because they wouldn't make any money, right? So let's put that out there. But as you continue to grow, and if you have the vision that Tim and I do of the size that we want to get to, the business plans that we want to achieve, the speed that we want to achieve them in, all of those things, at some point in time, you need to take things into your own control and say, hey, I'm going to do this myself because maybe I can't do it better, cheaper, faster, but at least I'm going to try. And
Right.
you're signing up for a lot of work. Let me tell you, it has not been easy, but we've really it's really opened up my eyes to really true scale. And when I first started in this industry, everyone's talking about economies of scale, buy multifamily for economies of scale, economies of scale, economies of scale. It's like, okay, cool. So then I'm going to do that. How do I realize these economies of scale? And it didn't really make sense to me until we saw this other side of the coin. And that's why we're providing the transparency here, because maybe somebody out there listening to this show right now is like, oh, I thought I had economies of scale because I own, 80 units in a single market. Well, you do, right? But how are you utilizing that economies of scale? Are you getting the benefit of it, or is somebody else getting the benefit of it? And you're paying for a service at the end of the day, right? So either you're going to do the work yourself and realize a benefit, or you're going to pay somebody to do it and they might realize a benefit. But hey, that just comes with the territory at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And as you're scaling, it's the thing that Tim and I have kind of learned here is, as you're scaling, you'll want more and more control over individual items, right? Um, you even with third party, you get to a point where you can go set up a Lowe's Pro account. Although, a lot of times third parties will kind of push back on that. They want to use their own setups. So, you want to be able to go do those things, but then what you really want to have access to is more direct control over your payroll, and then um, negotiating contract services, right?
Yeah, that was
Like,
huge.
yeah, like you
Mm.
want to have an ability to walk to that, something simple. Let's pick an easy one. Walk up to that landscaper and go, I'm not going to be giving you 100 units on one property. I'm going to ask you to quote me 350 units on 4 properties, right? So I can keep your crew busy for an entire day, right? So what are you going to what's my rate in that scenario, as opposed to, you guys having to come over and then, shift and things like that. So, what kind of discounts are you going to give me for that? And it's there, right? Same thing with pest control and all these other things, and insurance, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh, that's a big one. We've been working on insurance about converting everything over to a master policy, which kind of mitigates the risk against the portfolio that we manage rather than on an individual property basis. So that's another show for another time as we continue to work through that. It's been like a as of today, it's been about a 3 to 4 month endeavor, and it's probably gonna be another 6 months until it's complete because we were consolidating insurance brokers and moving everything around, and then once it's under one insurance brokerage, then they can put together, like, a package and then market it out for this master pol there's, like, a multi-step process here. It doesn't happen overnight, so it is quite a bit of work, but we're really hoping to see some insurance savings across the board, so we'll definitely do a show about that once it's done.
yeah. So, that's, guys, those are just a couple of the examples that we've been dealing with lately. And we've been talking about some bigger stuff as well, which we'll talk about as we get into that, down the road. Um, but Tim's right. Vitali's right. Like, we thought we had scale, and what we ended up realizing was our ability to control as we did grow and scale. Just wasn't there with third party in place, right? And again, like Vitali said, that's not to knock third party. That's absolutely not what we're here to talk about. We're more talking about like that crossroads moment, right? That crossroads moment when you hit something and you're like, I know that this should be coming down.
Different.
I know that these prices should be coming down. I know that my per unit price, per unit average across my portfolio should be dropping, right? That's why you scale, right? Is to get those average costs down, and they just weren't, right? They weren't dropping, and except in a couple of places. But we were like, we know there's more there. So we sat down and we started looking at it. It was like, hey, to do this, we've got to have direct control over these line items. And it's real easy, guys. Go look through your underwriting tool. Go to the P&L tab and start looking at the line items, and say, where should I be? Where should I see things drop? Right? Where should I start to see things drop? And under those things, start to look at how do I do that? Oh, it's probably, the answer is probably going to be bringing it in house, right?
Mhm.
Um, so popular places that you hear about, right? Property management, bring it in house, right? That's a place you can scale
Mhm.
and realize savings. Renovation crews, right? Like, at what point do you decide to bring your renovation crews in house, right? Um, these are all things that come in kind of aha moments for us as we've sat down. And honestly, guys, I don't know why it's an aha, right? Because you see it across the board. You see these guys that have been doing this forever, and they're like doing this stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why they did it.
That's something I want to press on a little bit because it's interesting, and everyone's guilty of it. I don't care who you are, right?
Right,
You hear something differently when you need to hear it, right?
right.
Like that's why we go to mastermind events. That's why we go to these real estate conferences. That's why we do like the meetup calls and the phone calls with everybody because at a certain point in time, you're just like, I hear those words and I understand what you're saying, but I don't internalize it and do something about it until it impacts me, right? So like I like to talk about it with a lot of people that are learning how to get into real estate and they want to get into real estate, right? The first thing you need to do is learn the lingo and the understanding and how to underwrite a deal, right? That's like your entryway. That's an entryway to get into the business. And some people are like, oh, well, how do I renegotiate a contract on a property? I'm like, well, why do you even need to know that right now? Because you're still trying to figure this piece out. So it's like building blocks. And I've heard these things over and over and over again, hundreds of podcasts, um, thousands of conversations at events, and talking to other people that have done it already. And they're like, they're pressuring you to do it, do it, do it. And then before you know it, you're just like, I'm not really ready for it. But at a certain point in time, that, like what Vest was saying about, you come across this crossroads and you're just like, wait a second. Huh.
Yeah, man, Tim, that's a really good way to say it. Folks, like, listen to that, because I'll give you an example. Tim and I have a guy that we do stuff with, and I kind of consider him a bit of a mentor. He's certainly a great person to kind of emulate your path after. I mean, you can't argue the success, right? But I've been hearing vertical integration for a while, like vertically integrated, vertically integrated,
You
vertically
almost get
integrated.
numb to it a little bit because you hear it so frequently.
Yeah. And then he gets in my ear and he's like, you need to be going in-house. You need to take this in-house. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And then one day I'm standing in his front yard on a call, getting ready to go in and meet with him, and he hears me talking, right? He hears me on the phone doing some asset management stuff. And I walk in and he's like, "What were you doing?" I'm like, "I was talking to my property manager doing some asset management work." And he's like, "That's what I do." And he's like, "That phone call you had, that's exactly what I do with my own people that I manage." And he's like, "How many hours a week you doing that?" And I told him, and he's like, "That's about what I spend doing what I do." Um, and he's like, "You're already doing it. Why don't you just bring it in house?" And then I'm sitting there literally arguing with him and complaining at the same time about how Vitali and I have been beating our heads against the wall because we've been scaling. We went from 20 units to 40 units to 300 units to 800 units, and our costs aren't going down. In a lot of places, they're going up, not insurance, not things like that. Things that we should be able to control, our costs were going up, and we're literally banging our heads on the wall going, I know this should be cheaper. This should be less expensive. And I'm sitting there with him having that conversation. He goes, "You know what the solution is? Take it in-house. I've already
Hey,
said it to you."
full disclosure, when we first started having those conversations after you had that aha moment, I remember clearly, I'm not label this, I don't care. I clearly remember saying, Tim, I don't want to be in property management. I don't know anything about it. I I do not want to do this.
And
And, and then, it took me like 90 days to warm up to the idea of it. And then we warmed up to the idea of it. And then we started, looking for an employee. And then we started talking with people about it. And like, the more and more I did it, it's like, what is it? The RAS, reticular accurate system, or the white Jeep thing. You say, "Oh, I never see any white Jeeps," and then all you see is white Jeeps
oh yeah,
everywhere. What is
yeah.
that called? RAS or something like that.
I have
Um,
no clue. I don't know that word.
but everyone knows that saying, right?
I
Like
know what you're
the white
saying. I
Jeep
know what you're
thing, and
talking
it's like,
about. Yeah.
as soon as I accepted the idea of going vertical or being in house, everywhere I looked, people were talking about it and doing it, and then I hear all of the same things over and over and over again that I've heard for years, and I'm like, oh, oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense now.
And then and then the final little moment of affirmation, right? We You guys know, we just got we it hasn't been that long since Tim and I were out in Hawaii at that conference. We had taken everything in house by that point, and we're sitting there and we're looking at Vince. We're looking at Vince and D, and we're like, "What are you guys up to?" And they're like, "Man, we're taking everything in house."
Yeah,
And it was like, well, damn it, if Vince and D are doing it, we made the right call. We are absolutely doing the right thing here. So that was just like that final moment where we were like,
yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
gonna be
that
worth it.
definitely was kind of you look at these people that are putting on a very successful event, and they too are like 2 steps behind us on this vertical integration path, and we're like, "Well, damn it, we beat them to the punch. Maybe we should be doing." But hey, like, at the end of the day, everyone's got their path. Everyone has their journey in this industry, and not saying anybody's doing it right or wrong. We're just talking about our experience at the end of the day, right? So it's pretty it's funny to look back and talk about it, right? Because when you're going through it, it's like, God damn, this sucks. But now when you look back at it, it's like, shit, I wouldn't have it any other way. I know,
Yeah.
a lot of people out there have kids, and I got one on the way, and it's like, when you don't have a kid, you're like, I can't imagine having a kid. Then when you have a kid, you're like, I couldn't imagine my life being any different. It's the same thing when it comes to like this vertical integration in order to realize your economies of scale in a single market or industry or whatever you're doing. Because when you own enough of something, you have enough weight behind you in order to say, okay, well, I'm going to take my business elsewhere, then I can get something a little bit different.
And here's something, and I don't disagree with you. It can be one of the most challenging aspects. It can also be the make or break spot, right? Property management, bad property management can kill the best deal.
It'll sink you.
Yeah, I don't care if you negotiated an 80% going in discount. Like it should have been 100 a door and you got it for 20. You can wipe that off the board real fast with bad property management. And guys, we've seen it all across the board. You're seeing it these days, right? So I agree it can be the most challenging, but it's the only place that you get direct control over the revenue and the expenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what makes or breaks deals? Income and expenses, right?
Yep.
So I don't disagree with you. It's challenging, but man, it's worth it. It's the spot you got to pay attention to for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to Christina's point, property management companies are businesses that their bottom line is making money from you. So, of course, like we totally realize that, and kind of one of the benefits of being able to bring our own management in house is Tim and I don't need to make a salary from these businesses. Like for us, it's almost like I don't want to call it a net zero profit center, right? Because like you're still going to make a little bit of money there, but my life is not dependent on the money that I could potentially make from a management company. Like I have other sources of income. This service company is there to support my main business, which is making money in real estate. And argue me till the death, but I will argue it through and through every single day that I make money in real estate. I make more money in real estate than I would ever make in my service company. Would it be nice to make $150,000 a year from my service company? Sure, of course it would be. But I'd rather put that $100,000 back into our CapEx and walk away with a bigger equity check that I pay less money on taxes in.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's taxed differently.
Yeah, and here's an example. I'm not going to give you too much details here because there's a lot of reasons not to. But I will tell you, like one of the properties that we have, we're realizing, let's just say it's more than 15,000 a month in savings, right? And you do that math, you multiply that times 12, you divide it by a 5 cat, that's more than $3 million in value that we're saving, right? Just by taking it in house. And that $3 million goes, a portion of that goes to our investors, but Tim and I own what do we own? Like 50% of that deal?
Yeah.
I mean,
a very large percentage of that deal.
So do I want a salary or do I want to split $1.5 million here with my partner? Right.
I'll take the 1.5 million, please, sir.
Yeah. I'll take what's behind door number right in your face, please.
But it's interesting now that we're kind of talking this through. It's our ability to operate deals differently has really also opened up what deals can work for us. Another thing that's kind of thrown around is it's a management play. Truly, we can say now when we look at deals and we know what it costs us to run a property versus what somebody's paying somebody else to run it, it is truly a management play for us because when we are able to cut payroll down in half, and bring on new people with different pay scales and bonus structures and, whatever, right? I mean, you can go on and on and on about that. It really opens up the doors to make more deals work, and a lot more deals make sense when you're able to pass those savings from your economies of scale onto an individual asset, right? So like, we're looking at another piece of property near we own something else, and it's like, oh, we could use this person across this whole thing. We could probably double her payroll and still be coming out ahead of where we would have been if we hired individual people for each one of those properties.
Yeah, agreed. And then like the other thing is you're able to more easily align the staff's interest with your own.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to toot our own horns, but our bonus structure is pretty nice.
Hell, I wish I can. Can you bonus me, Tim?
Yeah, on the exit.
On the exit, yes.
There you go.
Good answer.
I get that from you, right? You want to get paid now or later?
Oh, I do. I ask you that question all the time. Tim, you
He
want to get paid
does.
now or later?
When we go under our underwriting, that's hey, all right. Before we structure this thing, you want to get paid now or later? That's the like one of the first questions.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, so we're able to align, our staff's interest with our own, which I can't take credit for that idea. Again, somebody I consider a mentor said that to me, showed that to me, and it was like that makes so much sense. It's so simple, but it makes so much sense, and it also helps them, right? The on-site staff because they're making very attractive bonuses, right? But it's putting money in our pocket in the investor's pocket to align it that way.
Yeah.
So man, I like having this control. It's like the same reason I don't like to fly. It's because I don't know how to get in the cockpit and fly the plane, right?
Yeah.
I want to be in control. So I guess this is our example of being the pilot and the co-pilot, or two co-pilots. I don't know what we are. Um,
We're co-people.
there we go. Ooh, I like it. That sounds very PC.
um, but yeah, so it's been an interesting ride, and as we continue to learn and kind of scrape our knees as we go through this, man. I mean, we're about almost 60 days in now, a little over almost 60 days in now, and just really kind of starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're not just like kind of over our heads all the time now. We're kind of we're treading water very well, and we're getting heads above water. And now we're able to put together a business plan and start to say, okay, well, what can we focus on in order to get these costs down? Because we know we could, and other people have told us, now let's go do that, right? And it's kind of a different, it's not like there's no business plan or structure before. It's how do you continue to improve upon it and realize those economies of scale that we thought we had, but now we definitely really have. And I'm going to be an advocate for anybody, like depending on your personal goals and your level of involvement that you want in this business, to go vertically and hire people to do things for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't say it better than that. But just real quick, just want to say hey to EK and also to Mr. Nate. Gotta give my guys shout outs there. So just good
Yeah.
morning,
And then,
guys.
hey, and we had one question. I was kind of leaving this for later because it didn't really tie in with what we were talking about, but I still do want to
This
answer it.
that one?
Yep. Yeah. So Dwayne asks, Tim, with current interest rates and pricing of assets, what did you guys plan on bringing in alternative capital? So I would ask you, why are you even looking for alternative capital to begin with? There's the alternative capital solutions or options, they've never changed. It's been the same before and it's going to be the same today. The only difference is the returns.
Yeah.
And it's really managing investor returns and having good access to deals and accurate underwriting is important. Obviously nobody really could have predicted insurance rates to go from 700 to 1700 overnight. So that's kind of an uncontrollable thing. But really utilizing everything that we're talking about here with the economies of scale is being able to control your expenses and bring down your operating costs in order to make more deals work. I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting hammered with rising insurance, rising interest rates. Cap rates have decompressed a little bit, but not much, like negligible amounts, I would say, at least in the markets that we're buying stuff in. And the only other lever that you can pull is really your operating expenses. Like, what can you do to run things lean and mean for a period of time until we kind of can ride out this storm of interest rates and insurance continuing to go up?
Yeah, and I'll add one thing to that is like truly treating your buyer seller pool. So we're buyers, we're sellers, we work with other buyers and sellers. Like having a pool of people that treat each other like partners. Like
Hmm.
they see it as a partnership, right? It's not just a one-time transactional thing. So we look at each other and we say, "Hey, things have changed. Things have changed in the market. Interest rates are higher. Pricing expectations need to reflect that. Interest rates are going. I mean, sorry, insurance rates are going up. We need to take that into account. And if people aren't taking that into account, then we just can't do deals together right now. So I would say that's one other thing that we're doing that maybe means we don't have to go find alternative capital somewhere. Is that hey, the pricing expectations have changed across the board in some ways, and the guys that we work with understand that.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
So, all right, with that, we're gonna see you guys next week. So appreciate everyone joining. Hope you learned something. Drop a comment down below if you liked the show, and if you got any suggestions of things that you want to talk about or want us to talk about next week, let us know. Shoot us a message or comment on it or something. But happy to do anything that would be relative and add some value to guys. So with that, we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Peace.